What's up, Speedy's Garage gang? Welcome back to the Speedy's Garage YouTube channel. Today I'm going to jump right into it because I've got some work to do on Project 4Runner back here. I do get quite a few questions about how the truck has been doing. If you've been following the channel, you know, I sort of went through a little bit of a restoration project on it a couple of years ago, and I get a lot of questions about how the leather is doing because we upgraded the leather to cat skins, and as you can see, been a couple of years and it still looks really good. Super happy with that. Did the heated seats at the same time, and honestly that's something I should have done years ago. For those of you that don't know, I've had the truck since it was practically new, so that makes it to 2002, so I've had it about 23 years now. And about a year ago, one of the CV boots started to fail, and there was a lot of stuff going on at work at the time. I was working about 100 hours a week, and if I wasn't working I was resting, and I didn't have time to make a proper repair and order parts and all of that. I did order the track motive increased angle or lift model, whatever you want to call it, front axles. A lot of people will actually reboot their stock axles. To me, any more time's getting to be, it's like time is money, and I don't want to spend time fooling around with the grease and everything else to reboot the factory axles, so I just decided to buy some aftermarket ones. And these, like I said, are the extended travel. We'll see how they do. I have already painted the axle shafts. One of the things that was commented is that those tended to rust, so I hit those with some gunmetal gray. There's what the axle looks like, ready to go in. I've only got one side that's leaking, it's the passenger side, but I'm gonna swap both. They are 23 years old and the truck has about 165,000 miles on it now. So I'm gonna get right to it. To get this done, you might need what's called front end service kit for these pullers. I haven't quite decided how I'm going to disconnect the hub from the axle. There's a couple of different ways to do it. I'm gonna take a look and obviously pick the easiest one. Mallets and pry bars. You will need some gear oil because some is going to leak out. You will need an assortment of cotter pins. You can go get the specific ones, but I bought this kit. I'll leave a link to this stuff in the description. Needle nose pliers. Special tools you're going to need: a 35mm socket for the axle nut, as well as your regular sockets. I'm hoping that this impact is enough to get the job done. The axle nut is 174 foot-pounds of torque. If that won't do it, I've got the big boy, which is a pneumatic, which this thing goes way on up there. I think it's 1,200 foot-pounds. And you're going to need a torque wrench that will go to at least 174 foot-pounds. This one goes up to like 220 or 240. So this one's good to go, and that's what I'm going to use to torque the axle nut back on once we swap the axles out. Going to need a drain pan because you will get some leakage from the front diff. You can drain the front diff if you want. I'm not going to because I think it's going to leak anyway. A jack and jack stand. There is our problem. And a year ago, or actually more than a year ago, and many thousands of miles, I made what I would call a field repair using some shoe goo and some silicone tape. And I thought it would last a few weeks and give me, you know, enough time to get the axles in and plan a day to fix it. But it actually lasted a really long time, like over a year, and I've just left it. But it has started to leak again, so that's why I'm going to knock it out today. I always like to turn the castle nut upside down and put it back on these ball joints when I'm pulling them. Kind of keeps things from flying around too much. And I did decide to go ahead and do the puller because it was 1 bolt versus 4 on the lower ball joint. I figured this was an easier way. And when you're setting the puller up, I came in from the outside in, and make sure the jaws are not pulling on the lower ball joint boot. So you want to make sure it goes underneath that and it's only on this metal part. And then you just put a ratchet on it, go to work. Just like that. We're ready to lower the suspension, which will disconnect the spindle from the A-arm and allow it to pivot and push the axle out. But first, I want to give the axle a couple of taps with a rubber or plastic mallet just to make sure it's freed up, and that one is. I moved the spindle and brake assembly back out of the way and rested it on my jack and secured it with a bungee cord to give us access, or good access, for that axle. And now we're just going to take a pry bar and go back there to the diff side and hopefully easily pop it out. Don't forget your drain pan. It's popped loose, now we should be able to take it out. And if you're curious, there is what the axle tube looks like. If you have a leak, now's a good time to replace the seal. Mine are not leaking, and in my years of working on vehicles, I've learned if it's not leaking, don't mess with it. I did check the dust cover or dust seal on the back of the, I don't know if you can even see that, back of the spindle. It looks good too. And I always like to compare old parts and new parts. So there's old and new. This one is stretched out a little bit because we had let it sag, so that's why it looks like it's a little bit longer, but they are the same length. And now for the hardest part of this job, and that's going to be installing that new axle. They can be a little bit tricky to get started in the axle tube. And everything I've seen says to reuse the factory axle nut, so that's what I'm going to do. It has the little locking cap that goes with it, where this one has a castle nut. So we'll reuse the factory axle nut on that. And on the splines, I am going to put some multi-purpose grease on those, just to maybe give us a little bit easier time going into the axle and into the spindle, and protecting any seals or gaskets with a little bit of that grease. Everything else I think is ready to go. And here you can see the field repair I had made with the silicone tape and some shoe goo. And what's happened is the silicone tape has just deteriorated. Probably the grease or something got on it and probably started to make it soften, and it started to leak a little bit again. But honestly, it wasn't leaking badly, and I did that over a year ago, and I can't even tell you how many thousand miles. Okay, I've got the splines greased up, and the service manual suggests to put this C-clip at the bottom. They claim it'll go in a little bit easier, so what I've done is put it 180 degrees from where this is, this little clamp. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to try to get that C-clip at the 6 o'clock position. And like I said, this can be a little bit tricky, and the reason why is because these CV sections of the axle, they'll tend to want to compress like a spring and bounce back. So as you're trying to push the axle into the axle tube, this will compress and bounce back, and it wants to pull the axle back out. You can try to hammer or use a plastic mallet, but that kind of can be tricky too. So I'm just going to hope for the best here. And you kind of have to wiggle it around. You'll find the first spot where it'll drop in, and that means you've got the splines aligned. And then the second harder part is to get it to get past that C-clip. All right, I got the first one in, and I'm just gonna try to go for it. It went. It snapped into place, so that's the play, is to just put all your body weight into it and get it to snap into place. We'll double check that, make sure it's good, and then we'll put the spindle assembly on. So there it is, fully seated. That is good to go. One thing I do notice about this aftermarket axle, it doesn't have the purchase or the spot to get a purchase with a pry bar if you ever want to pull these out. So we'll have to remove them a different way if I ever have to. Hopefully I won't, not for a long, long time. The originals lasted 23 years. If I get that much time out of these, I'm probably retired from working on cars by then. You can use your jack to lift the A-arm up a little bit and then pull down from the top to get the lower ball joint started, and make sure the hole in the threaded part is facing forward to backward, because you're going to put a new cotter pin back through that. And torque on this 24mm castle nut is 105 foot-pounds. But if it doesn't line up with your castle nut hole, you'll have to turn it a little bit tighter. There we go. And I brought the original cotter pin over. I'm kind of comparing it to what's in here. I think it's one of these 1/8 inch. That looks really, really close to me, so that's the one I'm going to use. Like I said, I'm going to run mine front to back, which is what I recommend. And I'm putting the long leg down so I can bend it around and under the threaded piece, and then I'll bend the top part up. Now this axle nut gets some pretty serious torque. It's 174 foot-pounds. So you're probably better off to have a partner like I do, push the brake pedal to hold the rotor from spinning, and then I hope you ate your Wheaties. There we go. Now install the castle nut, that's what I'm going to call it. And you'll have to move it around a little bit till it lines up with the hole for the cotter pin. And I use the biggest one that I had in that little box over there. It's a 5/32, so that's the one I'm using. Finally, install the dust cap, and I did put a little bit of multi-purpose grease on it, make it a little bit easier to go on. The service manual didn't say anything about that, but it kind of makes sense to me. And this may be one of those gotta hold your mouth right situations. Lug nuts, 83 foot-pounds. Well, one side down, one side to go. There we go, all brand new. And I think that gunmetal paint looks pretty good. With everything done, I'm going to top off the front differential using my little differential oil bleeder tool I made. I'll leave a link in the description of this. Super handy. You basically fill it up with fluid, pump it up, and then you crack that valve and it will automatically fill differentials and transmissions and all kinds of things. And it's come in super handy, and it was like, I think 12 bucks or something, maybe 20 bucks to make it. And I'm gonna use the Mobil 1 oil that I've been using in the diffs for a long time. That's worked really great. So I'm gonna knock that out really quick, then we'll go for a test drive. And if you're real picky like me, you'll come back and torque the fill plug to 29 foot-pounds. Well, it's all wrapped up. I am going to keep the original axles because they're sort of hard to come by anymore. I think only remanufactured axles are even available for these trucks anymore. Again, I did go with the extended travel just because I do have a modest lift on this truck, and we'll see how these do. Not going to rebuild them anytime soon. I'll wait for like a cold winter rainy day when I'm bored and maybe go through these and rebuild them just to have a spare set on hand. But for now, they'll go in the boxes. I've got them labeled right and left, even though they're the same. I kind of wanted to keep track of that, and they will get put in storage. Well, that's it. And honestly, it wasn't too bad of a job. If you think about it, it's 6 lug nuts. It's the lower ball joint bolt, and the axle nut. So what's that? Eight bolts, if I'm remembering everything correctly, to get the axle out and pop the new one in. The hardest part can be getting your new axle seated. I did some research before I put these in to kind of get an idea of what I was looking at, and a bunch of people seem to struggle with that. I did try the rubber mallet, and because of the way those axles are kind of springy, I just wasn't having any luck. I had somebody come out and help me. Mrs. Speedy came, and I tried to compress the axle, as much as I could and have her hit it with the rubber mallet. Didn't have any luck with that. And then lo and behold, just a good hard shove got it done on the first try. So that's what I would recommend you do. The idea is to try to compress all that CV axle stuff that's inside those boots and then get all the force to go straight on through into your differential. Just make sure your splines are lined up, and you'll know because it'll kind of slip into that first section and let you know you're lined up, and then the rest of it's just that C-clip, and you can overcome the force of that C-clip pretty easily with just a good hard push. Worked in my case. Presto, changeo. Okay, so that's all done. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably a 4, I would say. I didn't think it was difficult at all. I filmed and everything else on one side. I did the other side just straight through, and it took me about an hour and a half to do the one I filmed, and it took me about an hour to do the one I didn't. So I would figure an hour per side. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. It's at Speedys_garage, as well as the website, www.speedysgarage.net. And hopefully, I'll see you out there.